We're down to no minutes. Call the meeting to order. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day in the city in which we live. Guide us this afternoon as we make our decisions. In Christ's name, amen. This is the regular meeting of the Newnan City Council, February the 8th, 2022. You had the minutes from the regular meeting of January the 25th, 2022 before you. I'll entertain a motion. We adopt those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. We adopt the minutes as presented. I'm going to call for voice votes today all day long because we have on the phone with us Cynthia Jenkins. Councilmember Jenkins is out of town. State law allows her to join us in that sense twice a year if you're out of the jurisdiction. So she is on the phone with us, so I will call the voice vote on the minutes. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda today, several appointments to boards and commissions. The first one is Mr. Alexander, Keep Newnan Beautiful.
Yes, sir. Miss Amy Ziegler.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. The second one, Mr. Gion.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Carolina McMean.
Second.
All right, motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. I understand the next item, next appointment needs to be put on our next agenda, if you don't mind, Mr. Craver. The next is the Tree Commission. Ms. Jenkins, do you have that appointment today?
No, I don't. Put it on the next agenda, please.
All right. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda today then are reports by the city manager. Mr. Cletus is out today. Mr. Craver, do you have anything for us?
No, I do not.
Okay. I do have one thing for us today. As all of the council members know, we sent out an email earlier announcing the fact that we need to have a work session at 5 o'clock on February the 22nd before our regularly called meeting on the 6:30 on the 22nd. The purpose of this work session is to discuss future solid waste management in the city of Newnan. And I am hereby calling that special meeting at this time and also notifying the press at this time that we will be having that meeting. All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda today is a public hearing, application for alcohol beverage license. This is J.C. Newnan Investment LLC, the Juicy Crab, 1120 Bullsboro Drive. The reason for this is personnel. This is a public hearing that's open at this time on this issue. Anyone like to come forward to speak to the issue of this alcohol license? Seeing no one come forward, at this time I will close the public hearing. Is there an applicant here today? Your attendance, thank you for being here today. Is everything in order? Mr. Sears?
But go ahead and vote on this.
Okay. Anything else? Is there anyone else? I'll entertain a motion on the application.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second on the application. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Mr. Sears.
Mr. Skin Edge is here, Mayor, to give his annual report for the Board of Zoning Appeals.
We flew right past that, didn't we? Skin, you were thinking you were off the hook, didn't you?
I'm very easily forgettable sometimes.
Mr. Edge, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Mayor. How are you doing?
Good. Well,
Board, or thank you, Council, thank you all for having me. My name is Skin Edge, and I'm the chairman for 2022 for the Board of Zoning Appeals, and want to give our annual report. Who's controlling the slide?
I can or you can.
You can if you
Yep.
like. This is just a list of our board members. This is a very experienced board. I think a number of these folks have been on the board for over a decade. A couple have even served as chair in the position I am now, so I think it goes without saying we're very prepared to hear all cases brought our way. Next slide. Our responsibilities, it's really three tranches. We approve and deny exceptions, variances, and appeals. Exceptions being the most, and we'll get into the details later on all that. We do not deal with plan developments or MXD projects. Next slide. Activity in 2021, as mentioned, we had 22 variances. This is, deviation from code. It can be a setback. It can be a height restriction. We had 12 special exceptions. This has to do with use of property. Can be a, apartment above a storefront. Then we had 2 appeals, and that kind of goes without saying what that is. Next slide. Activity over the last 5 years, you see we've been pretty busy. That's really for 2 reasons that we've seen. One being the pandemic and people doing a good bit of remodeling of their house and asking for variances. And the second being the tornado. We're seeing a lot of variance requests, especially on LaGrange Street where there are older houses. Next slide. Administrative variances, this is just more for everybody's education. This has been around since 2017. The staff deals with the applicant directly on these. As you'll see, there's some percentage thresholds as to where they get involved and we do not. It has greatly lightened our load and we appreciate it, and the staff does an excellent job. Next slide. Future discussions. The staff is always exploring different variance options. They hold an annual review of the wording and how we voted to see if any changes need to be made. And they're always good about providing training opportunities for us so we can further educate ourselves on the variances and be able to make the right decisions for the city when we hear from applicants. Next slide. Questions?
Questions from anyone? Appreciate all your hard work and dedication. We particularly are interested in lightening the load of the volunteer citizens and placing as much as we can of that on staff. So as you continue to move forward with those ideas about how to legally shift some of those items over to staff, council will be amenable to listening to what you have to say.
We'll be thinking about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so the next item on the agenda, Mr. Clark, you're up, I believe, on a consideration of a contract award for traffic signal improvements and related construction of Lower Fayetteville Road and the Noonan Crossing Boulevard East. How are you, sir?
Good, Mayor and Council, good afternoon. This project will be a upgrade to the existing hardware and software at the traffic signal there on Noonan Crossing Boulevard East and Lower Fayetteville Road. It will also extend the left turn lanes, and at the same time, it will address the right-in, right-out for the proposed townhouse development that would purportedly will make it difficult to make the illegal left turns into the right-in, right-out. We received a number of bids with Piedmont having the lowest bid, and they are responsive and meet all the terms and conditions, and I would recommend that we go with Piedmont on this.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. We accept the city recommendation for the consideration of a contract award to Piedmont on the traffic light signal and related construction Lower Fayetteville Road and Noonan Crossing Boulevard East. Any discussion? Questions of Mr. Clark? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you. The next is a consideration to amend the resolution to amend resolution to authorize the designation of a municipal clerk, court clerk as open records officer. Who has this today, or is this just?
Our municipal court clerk is in the audience and can answer any questions that may be specific to what we're doing. But if this body recalls, maybe a little over a year ago, we delegated some of the open records open records clerk duties for PD to a member of the police department. Well, we, as you can imagine, receive a lot of inquiries for open records requests specific to the court. What we're doing here is we're delegating that to the municipal court clerk, who Jada Blankenship, she's in the audience, they can answer questions you may have. The other two actions where we have our general, we'll call our open records clerk, is our city clerk, and then we have an individual named at the police department who deals with police department. So that's what we're doing. We're delegating the responsibility for responding in a timely manner under Georgia law for open records requests specific to municipal court to the municipal court clerk.
So we're taking workload and spreading it across
Yes, sir.
staff.
Yes.
Any other questions? Anything? Is there a motion on the
Make a
resolution?
motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion and a second. We
Second.
approve the resolution as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. The next, Mr. Craver, is consideration of a recommendation of the comprehensive service program, comprehensive program services based on the structural condition assessment report related to the redevelopment of the property at 57 East Broad
Yes,
Street.
sir. Mayor Brady, members of the
Craig.
council, I'm here with Eric Johnson, who's representing Comprehensive Program Services today, making the recommendation that we in fact do not retain either the building or the facade of that building for the reasons outlined in the letter in your packet, specifically on page 36. We're prepared, both of us, to answer any questions you may have. We have engaged an engineering firm as well as a cost estimate from the current demolition contractor to inform the cost around it. But cost is not the only reason we're before you making this recommendation. Frankly, there are other reasons, one of which is conflicts with known stormwater improvements that must occur on that site that generally, well, not generally, but frankly are in that area. The retaining this building in any form could inform how we manage stormwater on that site, which would be troublesome for the next developer. In addition to that, leaving the structure intact in either a whole form or just the facade very much dictates the future development and may constrain a future developer, however she or he may see fit to develop the project in the future. Of course, this adds potential costs as well as potential delay to this project. And then lastly, for those that are interested in the preservation of the built environment, while this building has some architectural style to it, it's not the only building representative of that unique style. There are a number of buildings in our historic downtown that are representative of the same style. So those are the reasons we're here, presenting the recommendation to you to allow for the city to engage Sabre, who's under contract now, to fully demolish the building.
And Ms. Johnson, we appreciate you being here today, and I understand our conversation earlier was that there will be brick salvage from the facade that will be used.
Yes, sir. Is this on?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, what we'll do is, all right, is that better?
I lost it.
I'm still here.
Okay.
All right, maybe it's working out. Here we
There
go.
go.
Yes, we had a meeting this morning. What we're doing is the brown brick that you see that is facing into the site, we're going to palletize all of that brick. We also, in addition, we're going to go in there and we're also going to save all the timbers. And there may be some cost. We're going to develop some of those costs as we start to take the brick down and get some of the mortar off. And before we spend any money, we'll come to the council with that. But the thought is to take that brick and use it to try to redevelop that same look on that corner on East Broad that you have right there. So, and whatever gets done, those concepts will come to the city council when we redevelop that. You will have total control over the look of that corner and the whole development as far as that's concerned. But we will keep some of those elements, the brick and the timbers that are inside, and utilize those during construction of the new development.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Any other questions, Mr. Alexander?
Yes, so the exact cost to save that facade, what is that estimate again?
Well, there are two alternatives, sir. The one shown on the building
Right.
is leaving the building intact to some extent. The blue would remain. That's $150,000. And then the other alternative, Megan, if you don't mind switching to the next slide, that right there, which removes all the sides of the building and includes the installation of some shoring, some structural members to maintain the facade, is about $475,000.
I would add also in there, this was done from a walkthrough. As you know, that site, all that stormwater goes down into that corner, all of it. And at times, that whole lower level is full of water. We have no idea what the condition of those footings are, the soil underneath them. We do have some remediation, environmental remediation, just dirt to take care of in there. This is clearly just a cost to keep the facade.
Ms. Jenkins also has some questions. Ms. Jenkins?
Yes, I was gonna ask about the cost as well, but I also am looking at the engineer gave us two options to do what we want to do. So I know that you all are saying that there's stormwater issues to mitigate and design constraints. I'm not necessarily concerned about the design constraints because I believe that the architectural and the historic value that's there is worthy of keeping with our city. I'm more concerned about the stormwater issues. Is there a way to save that and still deal with the stormwater issue?
Councilwoman, Ms. Eric Johnson, I think it's going to be extremely difficult. All that water is coming right to that point, and then we got to go across Broad, north to that detention pond. So it's going to be very difficult. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I think this cost that we're talking about doesn't contemplate having to do stormwater differently than probably would be a lot more straightforward trying to save that facade. And again, I have no idea what it would take after the fact to support. We may have to go, and I know you understand that, helical piers to support this thing. Right now, what the structural engineer is saying, it's all just tied together. If you took down one wall, the whole thing would probably come down. So it's very structurally sound until it's like Jenga. You take one piece out, and we don't know what's going to happen. Okay, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have,
Any other questions?
not so much a question, but a comment. In regards to this cost, to be clear, this is just the beginning point, these numbers that you're putting out.
Yes.
Once you start.
No question. No
When you
question.
start unwrapping this, this could be double, could be triple, easily for the sake of saving and you're going to save the bricks for the sake of saving
You're right. What you have
A
in front of
building.
you are estimates for both.
yeah,
Correct.
so it's,
And again, that
it's
cost is
almost
just
cost
when-
prohibitive, but that would be the,
That's a council decision, but I would just tell you, what this cost is just for Sabre to leave it the way it is in these two options, and their leave, then we have to come in with whomever else and deal with
Right,
it at a
right.
later date. That cost is not part of this.
right.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes, sir. One more question. People in the public have asked me to ask this question about if the possibility of saving bricks, where the public can buy some of those bricks further down the road if we don't use them.
Currently, Councilman Alexander, we have asked for a cost from Sabre, the contractor currently under contract to take down the buildings there, to palletize those bricks. We're waiting to get a price back from them.
Okay.
We're real close. We discussed it, as Mr. Johnson said earlier today on a call, and the idea is to keep some of those in hopes that they can be pulled back into the development. The conversation never included making them available to the public. However, if there are leftovers, we'll say, and it's the pleasure of the council to make those available, then by all means, that's an opportunity. What our goal is right now is to palletize those bricks that we can save to be included in whatever the future development is.
Sure. And I highly encourage the council to consider this, because there's been a lot of requests for the public to, if there's anything left over, there are people out there that want to buy, would like to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to deny, not accept on all the bullet points plus.
Would your motion also include to instruct Sabre to continue with the construction?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Sears, is that all they need on that?
I think so. yeah.
Okay.
Second.
Motion is second. Any other discussion or questions?
So I want to be clear, is that that is to consider to continue with the contract as is with
That's correct.
demolition.
Take it down, right?
That's right. To instruct Sabre to continue with the contract as is.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, right. Okay. Ms. Jenkins, anything else?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call the question then. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose like sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda today is a consideration of a resolution to amend the current ARPA resolution to indicate revenue replacement selection. Mr. Moody, how are you today?
I'm great, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
All right. So this amendment simply just adds an additional section to clarify the council's decision to select the $10 million standard allowance for the internal applications that we have. I want to hit at specifically that the section includes the phrase "up to." This does not require us to spend $10 million, but gives us the authority to spend $10 million if we so choose.
Make a motion to approve.
I do have a question.
All right, now I have a motion and a second to approve. Ms. Jenkins, what, your question?
Yes, my question is that in the ordinance, or actually in our conversation before, we said that we could spend, of course, up to, but that the ability to spend this on other ARPA-approved activities still remained an option for us, even under this. Is that correct?
Yes, that is totally correct.
Okay, and on page 54, I guess it is, the last whereas, not that one, the one before, we spent on the government services during the period of performance as an alternate to the revenue replacement calculation. And basically what I'm looking for is something that says we can spend it on the other things if we don't use it for the replacement. And I don't necessarily see it there. So that's what I'm looking for.
Councilman,
Maybe I missed it. You can point it out to me.
No, I think what you're getting at is included there with the phrase that Mr. Moody pointed out, the up to 10 million. You're not obligated to spend the 10. You are allowed to spend up to 10 million, but it's at your discretion. Every application will come to this body, and so you spend less. It's all of the applications will be presented here, and it will be at the pleasure of the council to fund. What you're considering right now, the council is allowing for an up to $10 million spend for what we've loosely called revenue replacement or our government services, internal.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification and for
Yes,
it being
ma'am.
on the record. Appreciate it.
Anyone else have anything else? I do have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay, motion carried, thank you. The next item on the agenda today, under unfinished business, we have, thank you, Mr. Moody, we have two items that are 18 Berry Avenue and 21 Berry Avenue. These are owner updates and requests for extension. Mr. Murray, how are you today?
Doing well, Mr. Mayor and Council. How are y'all?
Good, how are you?
Doing well, thanks. Just as a recap, an update, 18 Berry was before the council back in August. They were at that time granted a 180-day extension. There has been some work done to the property. There was a interior demolition completed. The property was secured. The trash and debris off the lot was removed. Unfortunately, since then, there hasn't been a lot take place in the last 2 to 3 months. I did speak with the current owner. He is changing contractors, and he's hoping to seeing some movement there very soon, some work starting soon. He is asking for a 6-month, 180-day extension. He did provide a schedule of repairs, but it was contingent on what he said was contractor availability and somewhat materials, but he's having a difficult time with getting his contractor lined up, so.
Okay, any question on 18 Berry Avenue with the request for 180-day extension?
I have one question.
Sure.
Do you have a problem with that extension?
No, sir, I mean, given the circumstances now, what's going on now.
Exactly.
I don't.
Yeah.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, we grant the 180-day extension on 18 Berry Avenue. Any
I
discussion?
do have a question.
All right.
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this, because I can't remember, it's been so long, if this one is the one that the neighbors have been absolutely complaining about, them keeping up the grass and that kind of stuff?
No, ma'am,
They have been doing that.
yeah, that's actually the next one coming up, 21 Berry.
Okay. All right. 'Cause, I'm all for trying to give people an opportunity to fix their property. But the least you can do is keep the grass cut and the other things done in order to, not cause a nuisance in the neighborhood.
Yes, I agree, and I'll address that in a moment with the next property.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I do have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? 18 Berry Avenue. The motion is to grant the extension of a 180-day request. All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose like sign. All right, thank you, motion carried. The next, Mr. Murray, you're still up with 21 Berry.
Yes, sir. This property, as an update or a recap, was before council in November. At that time, Mr. Calderon was given a 90-day extension, and that extension is also up at the end of this week. There has been little movement since. He has done some repair work, repaired some siding and some fascia and soffit that was damaged on the back side of the house. He's done some painting to the front of the house. He has cleaned, Ms. Jenkins, to your point, he has removed the trash and debris from the lot. He has cut back the weeds and the grass, so it does look more presentable. But there has not been a lot of movement since November. I did speak with him again, and he again is indicating or is requesting a 6-month or 180-day extension. He again is saying he's having difficulty with contractor availability, labor, materials, and he did provide a schedule of repairs, but it was based on what I just mentioned, labor and material availability. So,
Mr. Alexander?
Yes, sir. So he has made improvements.
he's done some, yes.
Yes.
The property looks more presentable, yes.
Right.
It's secured, it's,
And he's actually done structural, or not structural, but cosmetic.
Cosmetic. It's been
Yeah,
cosmetic,
so
yes.
he is making
yes, sir.
headway.
Yes.
Do you have a problem with that 180 days?
Again, not given where we are today, no, I don't.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second that we grant the 180-day extension for 21 Berry Avenue. Ms. Jenkins, do you have any questions?
No, I do not, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose like sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next, thank you, Ms. Murray.
I do have one more question, though, and it has nothing to do with the structural part of it, but if the grass and stuff gets out of hand, we do have the ability to address that with code enforcement, correct?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is second and final reading. This is an annexation request for annexation 2021-01 by Poplar 2020 LLC for 42.20 acres on Poplar Road, requesting rezoning of MXD, mixed-use development, consideration of development agreement, and other ordinances. As you all know, we had the first reading in the annexation on this at our last meeting. This is the second and final reading, and usually I just call for the motion on this, but we do have a development agreement that this council discussed during that process that we went through at our last meeting. That development agreement is in your packet. You've seen it. We do have a request for a couple of additions to that development agreement, and I'm going to call on Ms. Griffiths if she would come forward to make that presentation for those two changes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. We are requesting that under Section 4, Transportation Improvements Number 1, that the language to the sentence beginning construction of these roundabouts shall be accomplished in conjunction with the construction of the development's interior roads, which shall be, and this is what we'd like to insert, constructed concurrently with the development of the site improvements set out in the build-out schedule set forth in Schedule Roman numeral 3, little b, here and above. Internal roads are to be designed in accordance with the city standards. The second request would be to add a Section 9 as miscellaneous to the end of the agreement. which would read as follows. The parties acknowledge that certain milestones and the scope of certain Poplar Place improvements to be developed by developer to be sold or leased may be affected by certain market demands, and in such case, developer shall have the right to request a waiver or modification to this development agreement and the conditions of the rezoning of the property as the city council deems applicable relating to such milestone and/or improvement to be approved by the city council in its sole but reasonable discretion.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Developer agrees, of course, to those two additions, obviously.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, any questions of council on those two additions? Because they would be part of the motion on a second final reading. Okay, all right. I'll ask for a motion then for a second final reading. First on the annexation.
No, Mr. Mayor, we would need a motion first on adoption of the development agreement as amended.
All right,
I make a motion that we accept the development agreement as amended.
all right. Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second by Mr. DeBose. Any discussion on that? Okay, I'm gonna call that question. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay, motion carried. Thank you. The next item
Do you
then
want
would be a
opposed?
motion for the second final reading of
Keith.
annexation.
I got a question. Did you want opposed?
I assumed that. Didn't hear the two of you speak.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good.
The next is a motion for the second reading on annexation.
So moved.
And that would be with the inclusion of the amended development.
With the inclusion of the amended development agreement.
Second.
Motion is second for the second final reading on the annexation with the inclusion of the amended development agreement. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Pose like sign.
Aye. Nay.
Nay.
Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, and then the next item is a motion then for the adoption of the zoning ordinance.
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. We adopt the zoning ordinance on second final reading. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Pose like sign.
Nay.
Motion carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda today is under visitors, is a request from the Foundation Christian Church to close West Washington Street from Jackson Street to Brown Street on April the 15th, 2022, from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. for a Good Friday gathering. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. We grant the request as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you. That ends our regular agenda today. Do we have any reason, Mr. Sears, for an executive session?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, now I don't have any need for an executive session. Council members have anything else today off agenda?
Yes, I just want to point out that the 25-mile-an-hour signs are up through the town, and at some point in the future, the police will be educating people about the actual speed in the city, and so the quicker we start realizing that, the safer it's going to be downtown. That's the whole point of lowering the speed downtown, but I think it's very important if we want to be known as a pedestrian-friendly city to have reasonable speeds downtown, and so it's taken us years to get here, but I'm glad we're here today.
Okay, anyone else have anything else come before the council is not on the
I
agenda?
do.
Ms. Jenkins?
I do. I have a question. Recently we have had some meetings with the Race Justice and Equity Committee, and it made me circle back to that we had another thing that we voted on to do through the review of our city policy. And I'm just trying to get an update as to where we are in that review.
Councilperson Jenkins, as you may recall, we engaged Peggy Maris, a former and well-respected city manager from the city of Decatur, to assist. Ms. Maris was unable to complete that work, and the project has essentially been on hold since that time. If it's the pleasure of the full council, we can look towards re-engaging a consultant to provide some sort of assistance. If the council can draw a scope around exactly what you mean by the policies in general, if there are certain specific policies, or if it's just just a little direction from the council would be welcomed, and then we can go out and engage somebody if that's if that's your pleasure.
I would think that since we had engaged another firm already, that the parameters in which we used to engage them would be the ones we used to engage someone else.
Pleasure of the council. Are we instructing staff to move forward with the engagement of another party?
I couldn't hear that.
The mayor had asked if the council wants to instruct staff to proceed with engaging another consultant.
I have one question. What's been the lapse of time since that, it's been so long, seems like forever. Miss-
Pandemic time is different than other time. It's probably been 9 months.
Okay,
Give or
thank
take.
you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, could we have a report back from staff on that? Maybe not in the next meeting, but
Sure.
in February? Is that fair, you think?
All right. Ms. Jenkins, a suggestion has been made since this was brought up off agenda that we instruct staff to give us a complete report on where that was, what happened, and what, maybe next steps on moving forward.
That makes all the sense in the world. I brought it up because I was in a discussion just the other day and that I need to circle back and ask. So having it on another agenda where we have more time to prepare and talk about it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? I'll entertain a motion, we adjourn.
moved.
Do I
Second.
have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose like sign. Motion carried. Safe travels.